Welcome to the Irish Expat Podcast. In today's episode, we'll be covering our first Tuscan city, Siena. We'll be chatting about why we went to Siena, the Palio di Siena, transport, accommodation, food and fun, the value for money, and some overall tips if you're planning on visiting the city. Hi, I'm Jane.
And I'm Cormac.
And welcome to the Irish Expat Podcast. We've been on the road for 6 months travelling the lengths and breadths of Italy.
Season 1 is all about our 6-week holiday from the southern city of Naples to Lake Garda in the north.
We'll be giving our best tips and tricks and talking about our highlights and mistakes.
And how we've ended up moving to Florence.
Make sure you're subscribed, and if you like this episode, then please give us a 5-star rating. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at altlivin and find out more about us on altlivin.com. Well, hello, Cormac.
How are you today, Jane?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad.
Feeling mighty?
Oh, feeling great. Sun is shining. Can't complain too much. So today we are going to talk about our first Tuscan adventure, which is Siena.
Siena.
So this might be a little bit of a shorter podcast than usual, but we were there for a total of 3 nights, and it was a great time all around.
It's small. It's probably one of the smaller cities we were in.
Definitely one of those. Yeah,
probably the smallest.
Apart from the places up around Riva, but they were more just towns. So
they're more towns, but they
definitely the smallest. So we're going to give a few little facts about Siena. Do you want to kick off there?
That's my favourite one. Oldest bank in the world is in Siena.
It
which
is
cool.
Yeah, very good. We sat outside of it.
We did.
Didn't go in because we have no money.
we weren't really thinking about going into the oldest bank in the world unless we were planning to rob it.
Yes. So Siena has a total of 17 districts. They're known as contradas, and they're all named after animals. And they come together twice a year in July and August. And they each contrada has a horse or a few horses, and they do horse racing in the main square.
The Campo di Paolo.
Campo di Paolo. So they don't wear any saddles.
Nope.
They're absolute lunatics.
Yep.
And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the episode. But we were staying in the Giraffe district, which was very nice.
Yeah. The city itself is built over 3 hilltops. It's still one of the few cities that has a fully intact medieval wall surrounding it, which is about 7 kilometers long. So it makes it really cool because it's just all enclosed. When you first arrive at the city gate, it's a walk. It's a straight walk up a hill till you get to the city centre. So it is like.
So if you're traveling there by car, you're going to have to park outside of the walled gate.
Of the wall gate.
Mopeds are allowed in there, but cars are not. It's a hilly place.
Bring good runners. Bring good trainers. Yeah, it is quite hilly. Especially for some of the bars we went to, was a little bit of a hike.
Definitely,
you literally go down one of the hills and up the other one. So it is, definitely bring good shoes. Bring good shoes to Siena.
Yeah, so we stayed there for 3 nights overall. The reason that we went to Siena in the first place, because you might think, well, why did you go from Rome and then to Florence? Because if you're actually looking at the map, you have to go through Florence to get to Siena. There's no direct buses, there's no direct trains or anything like that. Yeah. So we got a train to Florence train station and then got a train from Florence to Siena. But the reason that we did that was the accommodation was only available in Siena at a certain time. So we just took it.
So we didn't realise that we had applied for the dates in Siena at the time.
We didn't know that the Campo di Paolo was on.
We had no idea what it was when it was on, and we had just gotten a cancellation, I think, during the holiday, and he said, "Oh, that Airbnb in Siena's opened up."
We'll jump straight into accommodation first. We'll come back to transport. But accommodation, I was looking at different places in Siena, and it seemed to be really busy and really expensive.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I found this 4.9 star Airbnb that was available for the couple of nights, super reasonably priced. But it was definitely a cancellation. They were booked out 6 months after that. Yeah. So we just got really, really lucky. I'll leave the description to the Airbnb. It was my favourite Airbnb that we've ever stayed in. The hosts were absolutely incredible. But yeah, so that's why we ended up going to Siena kind of arseways, where we should have really gone to Florence first and then gone to Siena for a night or two.
Yeah, so Siena is just less than an hour's drive outside of Florence.
Yeah, it's an hour south.
It's not too bad.
Yeah, you can drive. It's perfect if you're driving from Rome and stop off in Siena for a night or two and then drive up to Florence. But just public transport, there doesn't seem to be kind of any direct routes from Rome to Siena. So just bear that in mind. Yeah. But our accommodation, oh my God.
Oh, their names were Paolo and Rosetta.
Yes.
And they were the nicest Airbnb hosts you've ever come across in your life.
Picked us up from the train station.
Collected us in his car from the train station, brought us into town, showed us the house, brought us on a private walking tour of the city centre to explain everything that was available to us.
Mm-hmm. Best places to get groceries. It brought us up to the cathedral. Showed us like the cathedral de Catherine, was it?
Yeah. So where the head of the patron saint of Italy is.
I think her body.
Her body's in Rome.
Is her body? No, I think her head is in Rome and her body is in.
I think it's the other way around.
Oh, is it? Okay.
The head is in Siena and the body is in Rome.
They love chopping up bodies.
Yeah, they like sharing around the dead people.
Yeah, a bit strange. But Paolo was an absolute gentleman.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of drizzling when we got there. But yeah, showed it, the apartment itself. Absolutely stunning. We cooked there a few nights.
It was the most beautiful little home. Even we walked in.
Antique furniture.
The bathroom door is from the 11th century, and we were just like, "What? It's your bathroom door?"
And because it was in the Giraffe area, Rosetta took pride in having. Like, it was just a fun game of like how many giraffes could we find in a house.
Yeah. Because the great thing is each district has their central piazza or their church, and it's a huge open area basically. Mm-hmm. And we were on it.
Yeah, we were literally on
the giraffe area.
It was such a good location.
Paolo and Rosetta were like the godfather, like the grandmother of the district. Because when we'll get into it, but when they took us down later on, they knew everyone. Everyone's coming over, saying hello to them. How are you? As soon as we said, "Oh, we're staying with Paolo and Rosetta," someone was like, "Oh, bravo, welcome, come on in." And we were just like, "Oh, okay, well, we're staying with the right people."
Yeah, so they were just absolutely amazing hosts. Shout out to them. We might actually send this to them if they want to share it out. But thank you so much, guys. You went above and beyond.
You were unbelievable.
We've kind of covered transport. It's very easy to drive to Siena. The train is a little bit awkward because you have to get the train from Florence. Yeah. And a lot of people actually just do day trips to Siena from Florence. There's a load of bus tours going all the time. Yeah. So I'd recommend if you just wanted to see it for a night, then fine. But throughout the year, there's a lot of, apparently their Christmas market's very famous. And I think it's really nice for like a little chill night away.
Yeah, and apparently a lot of the 17 contradas, they actually run little events during the year as well in their own areas, which aren't as heavily advertised as the Campo di Paolo, but would still be heavily advertised for the locals in the area.
Yeah, no, it's super nice, very, very local. I'm sure during we didn't see that many tourists, even though we were there during the Campo di Paolo.
That was the funny thing, yeah. There's a strong Italian, population that comes, and I think that's what Paolo was saying as well. A lot of people come home from Siena to back there for the Campo di Paolo to see their family and everything. Which makes sense.
There is a university there, so there are a few kind of Erasmus students.
Yeah, because the university is also one of the oldest in the world. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, didn't see a lot of tourists there, even though I'm sure a lot of the bus tours, they might come early in the morning and you have your little get around before the height of the heat. But yeah, we thought it was lovely to stay there overnight.
Yeah, and there's a lot of vineyards as well outside of Siena on the way to Florence. So you can actually from Florence, you can do a day trip wine tasting to Siena, and they'll bring you into Siena to one of the vineyards and back into Florence.
Yeah, my parents are actually going to be doing that when they come over to Florence next month. So
there you go.
We'll give you some feedback on how they thought that we might even have them on.
We'll interview your parents.
Yeah, we might try and get them.
Well, Jerry, what did you think?
We'll give them a few drinks beforehand, maybe.
We'll record the podcast in the pub. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So moving on to food. The big thing was, because we had such a beautiful apartment, and because we were trying to save a little bit of money at that stage as well, because we knew we were coming to Florence and we wanted to go for some nice dinners in Florence, we actually ended up cooking quite a lot. So this is when we discovered officially Conad.
Yeah.
So there's kind of two major supermarket chains in the north anyway. Well, they're kind of all over.
Well, there's a good few different ones, yeah.
But Conad and Carrefour are the two main shops that are around. We used to be Carrefour people.
Yeah.
And now we've gone back to Conad.
In Siena, we were another shop called Pam Local.
Pam Local was great, yeah.
Which is kind of, they're spread around as well. There's a few in Florence, there's a few in there's one in Siena, and then up north as well. I'm not sure about the south. I don't remember seeing Pam Locals.
No,
south too much.
But yeah, Pam Locals amazing for like your treats.
Yeah,
crisps.
Crisps. They do like a lot of like pre-made like sandwiches and meal deal kind of thing. So it's a good little shop just for bits and bobs.
Yeah.
Some great bits and bobs, lunch.
Closest thing to a Tesco Express, really.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it, actually.
Yeah. So in that Pam Local, I discovered the greatest thing of all time, which is truffle flavoured crisps. They're absolutely delicious. You want to go for the crinkled cut?
Crinkled cut, way better than the normal.
Way better. Way, way better. It's a strong flavour. Yeah,
it's very. I'd recommend starting off with the crisp. If you've never had truffle before, don't go straight into a truffle pasta because it's intense. If you've never had it before, it's very, very intense.
So the highlight of my food for the whole trip were the truffle crisps. We did go out for one kind of fancier meal.
Yeah, we got a nice authentic local pasta, which was kind of shingale, which is boar. So just kind of done like ragu, but they use like pappardelle pasta. So everywhere has their own style of pasta. That's kind of like the house pasta for the area. So a lot of the meat dishes will be the same. So the ragus will be the same in most places, but the pasta and the way it's prepared will be slightly different. So it is interesting to try out
different pastas
in different places just to see.
But it was still quite affordable, and we did get a little kind of cheese and meat board. So this was just right by the cathedral. Again, the name is in the Excel sheet, or we'll link it in the description. So yeah, it was fine. It was perfectly lovely and fine. But the food there, we definitely, because we had such a nice kitchen, we just kind of chilled out.
Yeah, we chilled, we cooked. It was a beautiful, like, this house was so beautiful that you couldn't warrant leaving it for dinner. It was just so nice.
So we were moving on to the fun section, but something that overlaps the food and the fun, and also our accommodation, is because so during the Campo de Paolo, all of the regions, which is not great if you're trying to do work meetings at 11 o'clock in the morning, they all gather in their own individual squares and they march the horse to the main Campo, Piazza di Campo. And they sing and they have a big procession and people are drinking on the streets, and it's kind of like the Galway races for all the world, but like classy.
So during the week of because it's on a Saturday at the weekend, but during the week they do practice horse races. So they bring all the individually all the horses into the square. They're playing tunes. They do a practice lap and then they march the horses back for lunchtime, and then they come back in the evening. I think it was 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And they do a practice race and then they finish up.
So all day they're singing around the streets, and each little each animal section of the city, they each have their own little songs that they sing as well. So they try and out-sing each other. So not the best to get work done, I will say, but because we were staying right on the square of the giraffe section, we noticed that there were just hundreds of tables being laid out.
Yeah.
And then there were just locals in every single square eating dinner on the streets.
Yeah, and massive, like 12-meter long tables all down the streets.
With hundreds of people.
Hundreds.
So we were like, what's going on, Ted?
Can anyone go to this?
Can anyone go to this? So we tried to look online and we couldn't get that much detail about it. We thought maybe you had to buy a ticket to go for one of these dinners. And
then we thought it might just be a local thing where it's like we wouldn't be allowed in at all. So
I decided maybe the second night, I emailed Rosetta and I just said, what's going on? Like, how do we buy tickets for this?
How do we get involved? Yeah. So all of a sudden in the evening, when we had a pretty bad hangover, there was a knock at the door. The lovely Rosetta was there waiting for us. Are you ready to go for dinner? So yeah,
Rosetta turned up at the house, and she didn't have very much English, but we were able to use Google Translate, and so she brought us. So do you want to explain what it actually is that they do in the square?
So the whole square basically, it's a community thing during the race that the entire contrada of the giraffe community they split up. So the young guys and young girls, basically, they take turns.
Mhm.
So one day it's a group of guys, and they'll go into the kitchen and they'll cook the meal for the afternoon. And then that evening, the ladies will all serve. So they basically come along with 4 meter long, massive trays with all the food on it at once, with 2 ladies carrying it, and then another 5 or 6 girls just passing out the food like crazy.
Yeah.
So the whole thing where basically it's a community thing that when you pay in, all the money goes back into the contradas community for like the next event. And
yeah, they have little communal kitchens and little communal pop-up bars for these events. And so they break it down into young men, young women, old men, old women, and
so
they all take
very traditional to sit with the. So basically, if you're a married couple, you sit with the women and you sit with the men. So the men all sit on one side, women all sit the other. You hang out with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an amazing setup. And we were sitting at the
kids table,
basically, the kids table at the end with a couple of the families, because we were thrown in there with no Italian. Everyone was Italian. So luckily, the one guy that I was sitting beside had English.
Yeah, they were very nice.
They were so welcoming, asking like, how did we find out about it? We were telling them Rosetta and Paolo. They immediately were like, oh yeah, of course, that makes sense. You're staying just up there then. We were like, pointed at the house.
It was so community driven, and I think this was the first time that we'd gotten a real taste of Italian family life.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so lovely. So there were 2 huge tables of about it was about 150 men on one side, 150 women on the other side, and we were sat right down the middle with kind of couples in like their 20s, early 30s that all had kids, and the kids were sat at the far side. But what I loved is that they served the kids the food first, and then they let all the kids go and play on one side of the square, and the couples just took turns looking after the whole group of children.
It was
every 20 minutes there was a little rotation.
2 mothers would like take the side of the table each, run down, check all the kids, everyone's eating, cool, okay, perfect. They go back up, and then 20 minutes later, one of the dads went down, gathered all of the kids, took them on a toilet run by himself, like a teacher taking the lead at a school tour. And he was like, all right, everyone with me. And they all followed him. No hassle. Down the toilet.
The kids were so well behaved as well.
Yeah, they were all just like kicking plastic bottles around the square. I was just like...
Playing football,
this is just amazing. So it was our first taste of a proper, authentic community Italian family experience.
Yeah. And I mean...
it was one of our favourite meals. One of my favourite meals.
It was... Look, the food wasn't amazing, but to feed that amount of people, and it was... We were there the night the old men were cooking.
It was the men were cooking that night. So it was funny. Like it was, because I remember during the day I went past the Circolo window, so the community kitchen window that's just underneath their church.
Were they blaring like Motorhead or something?
They were just blaring Motorhead, and they were all just shirtless with aprons on. And I was like, this is amazing. I was like, health inspectors would hate it, but it's amazing.
So gas. But yeah, it was just such a sense of community. It was really nice. We didn't have any Italian, unfortunately, at the time. It would have been nice to have had a little bit more. But just what an experience. It was, and thanks to our Airbnb host, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to go. And again, that was just the Giraffe section, and that had maybe 500 people eating at it. Yeah. Whereas there's, how many other sections? There's 17 districts, so there was 16 other dinners taking place. And we were at the one in July, and apparently the one in August is even bigger.
It's the official one. It's like the first one, apparently. So that's the big one that people know about. We didn't know it was on July. Yeah. Like I remember hearing about a famous horse race in an Italian city square before, but
it was just crazy. All I could imagine is like, if you had Bohermore and Knocknacara and Shantala and all these places in Galway, and they all drank from the morning and marched their horses into our square and raced them around our square.
Imagine the carnage. Absolute carnage. Like,
and then all go back to drink and
drink together.
And then eat and drink together. It was just such a great idea. So beautiful. And obviously outdoor, because the weather was just so perfect. So,
that was the whole thing. It's just all outdoor dining. It's, you're wearing shorts and a t-shirt at 11 o'clock at night having a plate of pasta.
Yeah. And I mean, they were still going. I mean, we were tired. So at 11:30, we kind of phoned it in. They were like, oh, you're not staying for dessert? And there's more wine and there's whatever.
More food coming. We're like, God, no. And then that was the other thing. Like every single table had like 3 or 4 bottles of wine around different groups. and it was all free.
Yeah.
It was all included in the price.
I think the beers were only like €1 or something.
The beers were very cheap. Yeah, they were like, big bottle was €2.
It was just to cover their expenses, really. So
yeah, that's the whole thing. Your entrance ticket gets put towards everything, so that's what makes it so brilliant. It's just like, it's cheap, but there's enough people that they actually make their money back on everything.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great. So some other fun stuff that we did, we already mentioned our private walking tour from Paolo.
Yes.
In regular times, if you go there, but because the Campo was on, this didn't happen. So there's an early market every Wednesday. That's also in the Piazza del Campo. Then we went to two kind of pubs there. One was called the San Paolo Pub, and it was kind of like an Irish pub.
Yeah, it was an Irish style bar, but it wasn't very Irish at all.
No.
But the best thing about it was it had a balcony that overlooks the whole Piazza del Campo, the whole square.
Yeah, so if you can get, there was maybe 2 or 3 tables. It sat about 6 people out of the balcony in total. But if you can get a balcony seat there, it was so amazing because you could actually just look out and look over the square and watch the horse racing and stuff. So I'd highly recommend going there, even if you're not there during the Campo Paolo. I'm sure even if the Christmas market's on.
All the restaurants still have their tables set up on the Piazza del Campo at night. So it's just beautiful because you can eat out in the square, and it is it's all an angle from the top sloping down towards the church in the bottom. So if you sit kind of up at the top end, it is a beautiful view.
Yeah. The next place we went to, I'll let you take over this one.
So it was called Weed and Love Bar. So they were a CBD bar basically that sold CBD, and they were just a regular bar. They had a beautiful garden area, and it was at the foot of one of the hills. So it was a bit of a walk, but it was super, super peaceful. The staff, I remember, were absolutely lovely.
Yeah, I'd say it's a place that was hopping at night.
I'd say so. I'd say at night time, there's probably a few heads that go down there for their weed and love. You know?
Yeah. But no, we went down there, and I think we just got a little glass of wine. The wine was fine. But that's when we actually discovered.
Yeah.
So there was only 3 of us out in the whole garden. So the third person was a very loud American person who was having a domestic with their partner on the phone, through Zoom actually.
Yeah. So obviously no headphones, as loud as all hell, and we had to sit there and just be like, he's just taking over the entire space.
Yeah, he was kind of ruining the weed and love vibe. But what we did discover then was, and it'll come up in a few different episodes from now on, is we started speaking Asquelga in Irish. And so we would have very basic Irish from secondary school, but it was actually great to then realise that we could communicate in Irish.
We were kind of interjecting it with a little bit of just Irish slang, so like Amadon. I'd be like, on Farn Shaw,
Tasha Amadon, which means this man is an idiot. So
is a massive idiot.
Yeah, so it was great to actually.
It was good fun, and we discovered then, when we were trying to learn Italian, we were like, oh, actually, we know more Irish than we thought. This is great.
So we'll move on to value for money. What did you think?
Ooh, I think the value for money in Siena was pretty good. For the accommodation, for what we got, was absolutely incredible. The fact that, like, the Campo di Paolo itself, you don't have to buy any tickets to get. You can just stand in the square. Food was reasonably priced. I know when we were there, the restaurants and stuff on the square were quite expensive. But the value for money overall, I think, was actually pretty good.
I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Now, again, because we had a full kitchen and everything, we didn't spend money at all. Really, in
Siena, we actually were really, 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 really lucky. We didn't have much expenditure at all.
Yeah, and the wine or prosecco there is also really, really cheap. So if you go to any restaurant or any bar and you get a bottle of something,
the rounds were very cheap as well.
Yeah. So value for money overall. We didn't spend money there at all.
No. No. So amazing value for money.
Overall experience.
I thought it was unbelievable because to land there and not know that there was one of the most famous horse races on of all time, and the city is just transformed for like the center, and there you can just feel the atmosphere. It was an excited,
amazing, like
building,
festival
vibes.
Yeah.
Like you see all the locals, they were chatting and walking around, and like with family members that have come back for the horse racing, and it was a really nice atmosphere in Siena. It was really,
really nice
and very relaxed. Like it's a beautiful city, medieval. hilltops. The views are absolutely insane.
Yeah. No, I'd say
you're overlooking the Tuscan hills.
Oh my God, the views are spectacular.
Yeah, and you're up on a hilltop, so it's just, if you're looking for somewhere just to have a glass of wine and sit back and relax, Siena is absolutely.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend, if you're coming to Florence, to go and do Siena for a night. Maybe if you're doing Florence for a week, I'd go to Siena for a night, definitely.
Yeah, because it is that one of those places you could go and just do nothing and relax, and it's stunning, and there's beautiful museums, like the old banks. There's so much you can go and see if you like the art and history, but it's just a stunning city.
Yeah, I do want to just touch on as well, the whole reason that we even kind of found Siena, or why we chose Siena, was Cormac had found this beautiful, essentially 5-star all-inclusive resort that was on a vineyard and had a spa on site. But that was about a 20-minute drive outside of Siena, and there was no local transport to get there. So again, if you're driving, take a look at some of the vineyard resorts that are around Siena, and then you could just pop into Siena for a day and have a little wander around. But there's some gorgeous stuff. If you had a car or a moped, absolutely stunning to go and explore the area.
I'll link the vineyards and stuff from my notes to the Excel sheet.
Yeah, but
you can access it.
Absolutely beautiful place if you wanted to get out of the city for a night or two. So we're gonna do our scoreboard now. So transport,
I give it probably an 8, 7 or an 8.
I'm gonna make you give it a 7.
Okay.
So
fair enough. Yeah.
The train station is a little bit out of the way. You have to get a train. You probably have to get a bus from the train station or get a taxi from the train station.
That's it, because it was about a 10-15 minute drive to get from the station to the city gates.
But there are buses going as well, so it's just a little bit awkward to get there.
I remember leaving because we had to walk down the hillside all the way to the entrance gates to get our taxi.
Yeah,
because the taxi couldn't come up to a certain area.
Yeah.
So we had to go down to the gates. So that's the only reason I drop it down to a 7. Because it was just that it is a walking city. It's meant to be. It's historical. It's medieval. But it just means that you have to kind of walk that a little bit extra further to get to the train station, get your taxis.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7 as well, just because obviously we didn't have a car. If you have a car, you're laughing.
Yeah.
But again, cars aren't really allowed within the city walls, so you're walking an awful lot. There's a lot of hills, but it's very, very small.
But as well, it's like the streets are so tight and narrow in some places that you just don't want to be driving.
No, it's not built for cars.
It's not built for cars.
So yeah, that's just that it was a little bit awkward that we couldn't get a bus directly from Rome to Siena, even in the height of the season. So that was a little bit frustrating. But yeah, so 7 overall. Accommodation, I am giving it 10
out of 5, 11, 12. What do we need to give it?
It was absolutely amazing. Hosts were great, brilliant price. I think it was about €72 a night.
Yeah.
And just beautiful antiques in a gorgeous apartment.
It was just a beautiful little home. It was stunning.
Lovely. Kind of reset us. Yeah, it definitely reset us to get it for our next leg of the trip. Food.
We actually didn't experience a lot of food in Siena.
No, we didn't.
We cooked. So it's hard to kind of rate it. For what we did have was very high quality, and obviously the experience of eating out with the community dinner raises it up for me massively, because that was just like a really special once in a lifetime opportunity. So for food overall, I think I'm just going to go for an 8.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8 as well. We didn't get to experience quite enough, but the restaurants...
But for what we had was beautiful. Like, I remember that ragu, the shingale ragu that I had was stunning in that restaurant. And the starters we had were really good.
Yeah, and it was reasonably priced as well.
So,
in terms of fun, I'm going to give it an 8, and this is purely because I would give it a 10, but obviously the Campo de Paolo isn't on all year round.
Yeah.
So I would obviously give it a 10 if the Campo was on the whole time, because the feel and the vibe was just so much fun. But I'm sure that there are plenty of very, very, very quiet times. So I'd say an 8 overall.
I would probably give it a 9.
Okay.
I am being biased towards the horse racing, though, I think.
That's okay. That's when we went.
Yeah,
so.
If you're going during that, it's just such a special atmosphere. I recommend it more for a relaxing, peaceful holiday, night to away when the Campo de Paolo isn't on, because it's just breathtaking and very relaxing there.
Yeah, seeing the fog come in over the Tuscan hills is
it's just stunning.
Yeah. And then value for money, I'm going to give it, I'm actually going to give it a 9. Now, we did it slightly on the cheap, but I thought the restaurants and drinks were overall quite cheap as well. And there was a nice little selection of shops. So, yeah.
I think I give it an 8 myself.
Okay, perfect. So the overall score is 84, which places it, I think, third on the leaderboard, just 1 point behind Rome. So, yeah, not too shabby, Siena.
No, Siena.
But we do have to preface that with, it was during the Campo de Paolo. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, honestly, I think if the scores were for Siena just in general, it'd probably be just a little bit lower.
A little bit lower.
But the whole experience that we had in Siena was the Campo de Paolo.
Yeah.
So 84 is a very fair score for... Because it's on twice a year and it's on for a total of 7 or 8 days. 9 days in total. So if you happen to be around or if you just want to go to an amazing horse event, if you love horse races, this is amazing.
It's mad.
You stand in the square with 10,000 people and they fly around for 3 or 4 laps. Apparently, there's quite a few deaths.
There is a few deaths, yeah.
Yeah, not every year, but apparently
on average, one a year.
One a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously it's very
extremely dangerous.
Dangerous. It is. It's one of those heritage moments where it's really cultural that people accept the fact that it's dangerous for the riders, because it is obviously a square of 10,000 people, a small dirt track over concrete, and
no barricades,
no saddles. It is dangerous, but it's absolutely engrossing. It just takes you.
Okay, so that's it. That's it for this week.
Oh, we must mention the one little fun side note though, of when we were standing in the square, and as any Irish person will tell you, it's always an opportunity to find each other. And I was standing beside Jane, and we were talking about something, and she just turns to me and says, 1 second, turns around to a random girl behind us and says, Tommy Habitant Sean Concha Scalga. And I was just like, what? There was an Irish girl behind us who started speaking Irish to her friends who she was studying with, who Jane overheard. So yes, Irish people,
we're just everywhere.
Wherever. But I thought that was a really fun moment.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, I was like, why are you speaking Irish? And on that lovely note,
we're Jane and Cormac. We hope you enjoyed our Siena episode, and come back next time where we'll be talking about the next leg of our trip, Florence. If you like our podcast, then please subscribe and please give us a 5-star review. It's free and takes just a couple of seconds. You can follow us on socials at Alt Living, and you can download our Excel sheet with all of our accommodation, restaurant, transport, experience and budget details for our 6-week holiday on altliving.com. See you next time, guys.
See you next time.